help the wealthiest families in the U.S. get their kids into school. So I've done 761 what I would call side doors. The front door means getting in on your own. So I've created this kind of side door in because my families want a guarantee.
Oh, hashtag got him. Let's start the show!
Welcome to Cordkillers, the show about watching the stuff you love when you want, where you want, however you want. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey, I'm Brian Brushwood. Most importantly, that's a new Netflix original where we're finally going to take down the people who deserve it, not the people who federally guarantee unsecured loans for people who borrow outside their means, not the multinational corporations who give billions of dollars to have buildings named after them, but the parents of kids who they hope will get into college. Hashtag got them. Hit them where it hurts. Tell me about this show, Bryce.
I'm not even going to engage with that. That's such a...
No, Bryce, I like Brian. I am upset at this ripoff of Korea's Sky Castle and how the U.S. always just takes content from other markets and it turns it into its own. So tell us about it, Bryce.
That is a trailer for Netflix's upcoming Operation Varsity Blues, the college admissions scandal, debuting March 17th. So Matthew Modine stars as Rick Singer, who is at the center of this college admission scandal where wealthy families who, they make a good point, already had a leg up in the admissions process, paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to even further guarantee that their kids would get into school. It is part interview, part reenactment. They are calling it a documentary, but it's definitely like, no, they got Matthew Modine to be this guy in these scenes.
It can't be a documentary if Matthew Modine is starring a person who's real.
But they're basing it off of real FBI wiretaps. So I think that's kind of part of it is like...
So it's reenactment.
Reenactment, right.
Well, and I assume some of the audio will be real audio. We're entering this weird middle ground. We'll talk about it later, but I watched Nomadland, and it similarly has this kind of blurring of reality and fiction. But also my unfocused rage comes from Justin and I have had a vague unfocused frustration with the college system in general, where everybody thinks they have to do it, and yet I think maybe you don't. But
there can be two bad guys.
Like everybody's bad when it comes to colleges, full stop. I do find it particularly interesting that this story itself really, really touched a nerve in the world, and I feel like there's so many bigger bad guys than the parents who are just trying to get their kids into a college.
It's not a zero. So you can go after everything.
They could all be jerks. But right. I'll tell you,
this is making the
I'll tell you, who I said it wasn't a jerk.
Who's not a jerk, Brian?
Naaim, pronounced like Naaim Siddiqui, longtime fan of the show, chat realm all-star, and Kuhan.
How funny would it be if now I told you that I told you I lied again, and it's actually
no, I would believe it. No. I would believe it, and you could blame Matthew Modine for the whole thing, for all I care. That'd be great.
Listen, Matthew Modine, absolutely.
He told me that
he goes around and tells people how my name is pronounced.
This way would be better, yeah.
There was a transcript of this conversation between Brian and Naaim before the show that we will now go to Matthew Modine to reenact for us. Well, man, we're glad to have you here, and we are going to take no moments more before we get into our primary target. Television Critics Association is hearing the pitches, and they got one from Disney, made a lot of announcements. So Star Wars The Bad Batch will be premiering on May 4th. On Disney Plus. Loki premieres on Disney Plus June 11th, and Black Widow still set for theaters May 7th. So Black Widow going to appear before Loki, after Falcon and the Winter Soldier, unless things change again. The headline making was from Marvel's Kevin Feige, who had a few things to say regarding season 2 of a WandaVision. He said, I've been at Marvel too long to say a definite no to anything as far as the second season of WandaVision. Lizzie Olsen will go from WandaVision to the Doctor Strange film. He's not promising a season 2, but he's like, never say never, but that's not the plan. He explained that the series and films are mapped together. Sometimes they are meant to go right to a film, like in WandaVision. Sometimes they may go into a film and then back to a series. Sometimes they'll just go series to series. He explained that Falcon and the Winter Soldier is 6 episodes long because of cost. He didn't quite say it was the salaries of the stars, but he definitely mentioned the stars in close proximity to saying also it costs a lot to make these shows. And in longer episodes about why they keep most, or longer comments about why they keep most Marvel content PG-13, he confirmed that they have started working on Deadpool. He's like, Deadpool is an exception, which we are working on. So yeah, they're definitely already working on the next Deadpool.
Yeah, so Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I'm really curious how that plays. I think I mentioned in a previous week that I went back and gave Captain America a watch. What a great way to start that entire franchise, and especially jumping to the end of Endgame and seeing the context, no spoilers there. But the follow-up to it, the idea of two people who don't like each other but want to honor the legacy of somebody who they mutually respect, I think that is a rich playground that for the most part, I've yet to see really come out in the trailers, but that doesn't mean it can't be great. And if the story, I once asked Brent Hughes how he decides how long an episode of The Modern Rogue is. And he answered, it's as long as it feels like it ought to be. And I love the fact that it had nothing to do with the optimal length of attention span or whatever. He's like, you hand me whatever you recorded, and I figure out this is apparently how long this wants to be. And if the answer is 6 hours for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, then so be it. Kuhan, you once said that Green Lantern was going to make all the money.
It's been 10 years. 10 years, and this is the one thing you still harp on.
Dude, there's two people I get to rub that in their face. You and Cargill, so you're in good company.
Yeah, and Cargill is successful.
And so are you, sir. But what are you most excited about from the news that you've heard?
I definitely... So here's what I'll say is I saw some takes on Twitter actually about WandaVision, about how those two characters were not super duper interesting in the MCU until this show, which gave them this 6-hour playground to play in. And it's kind of the same thing with Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like if you watch those, if you look at all those posters, like they get shafted completely in all those movies. So it'll be really interesting to see a story that sort of covers those two guys and gets to, delve deep into, and you learn a lot more about them, because there's been 5 movies with Winter Soldier in them, and I really couldn't tell you very much about him, like outside of the stuff I know from the comic books.
5 sounds like a lot, but I guess you're right.
Captain America 1, 2, and 3, Avengers, right. Infinity War, and Endgame. That doesn't even include the cameo at the end of Black Panther. So
none of which is to say he necessarily was given short shrift. I remember once there was somebody analyzed all the IMDb ratings for every movie that John Goodman has ever been, and they figured out that he was simultaneously one of the worst.
This is a 538 piece. I love this piece. Yeah.
He was simultaneously one of the worst lead actors you could possibly have in a movie, both critically and box office, and yet one of the biggest slam dunks you could possibly have as a supporting character. So maybe that's what we have with the Winter Soldier. So, all of a sudden now I'm worried about Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie, like, they're able to carry a story. It's just that these characters were not super duper paramount. Like, Civil War happens around Winter Soldier, and Winter Soldier, obviously he's drugged up and whatever. But it just, these, like, you could have said the same thing about Paul Bettany before WandaVision, and I get so much more of that Vision character. And it's, there's just like, he does nothing in the 5 or 6 movies he's in as Vision. So it's interesting to see that that's sort of what these MCU shows are doing. Like, besides the ones that are original to Disney Plus, the ones that are coming from the movies, it's the characters who kind of got shoved aside in the movies, and you're getting a lot more of them, which is cool.
I was surprised how much I ended up liking Wanda in WandaVision versus the conceit in WandaVision, which they slowly weaned me off of. And we'll talk a lot in Spoilerin time about how well that worked this week or not. But I really do like this series as an MCU series now in a way I wasn't expecting to. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I thought, okay, so what they're doing is they're taking side characters, and to avoid this becoming after MASH, they're going to make it a buddy film. But now I'm expecting more. Now I'm expecting that, and maybe it's because they have this extended universe to rely on. They can say, we don't need to make WandaVision last for 6 seasons. We can just do 1 season and focus on making that 1 season sing from episode to episode. That's the kind of flexibility that Feige can command now, that makes it so that he can tell good stories and not have to worry about squeezing them into anything except the budget.
Yeah. Also, watching the two previous trailers on Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they focus very, very much on sort of the playful brother banter of two people who are maybe step siblings who don't really like each other, but they're forced into an elevator together, that kind of thing. But what they're hiding outside of, the logo has that giant Captain America shield. I would imagine that to sweeten that pain, they're really going to remind us that they've both lost someone and there's a ghost in the room. But of course, I wouldn't sell that in the ads, and I understand why that hasn't been in the ads. But I fully expect that to be a major part of this story.
Sort of the same reason that a major part of the WandaVision story is
the loss of her love.
Yeah.
And
whereas all the trailers just showed us it was going to be a TV parody, right?
Right.
Which, by the way, I would totally have been fine with. I watched 6 seasons of that, but what they ended up doing is also great.
Yeah.
Well, folks, there you go. Disney, TCA. We've got some Paramount Plus stuff. In fact, a lot more stuff from Viacom CBS, but we can't afford to do it. Brian, that we ran out of money.
No, look, Tom, while you weren't looking, I sent out a poll and I said, what are all the things that would surprise you in the world, in order from most surprising to least surprising? And there were two things at the bottom of the list. The least surprising thing is that Marvel's going to do something with the Deadpool franchise by creating Deadpool 3. Second to that was that they should support this very show by going to patreon.com/Cordkillers. That's where they keep us loud, live, and independent. That's where they become our boss. That's where they have a voice to influence what we cover. And most importantly, it's where they support independent media. They get an awesome RSS feed where they get all of our programming all in one block, including our super secret After Talk, which was a jumbo edition last week. I mean,
it was like 40 minutes.
It was a long, it was a whole
was it
show.
really?
It was very, yes.
It felt really good and confessional, and I think that Bryce and I had very good therapy as a result of it. But most importantly, you only get to hear it if you're one of our bosses. So head on over to patreon.com/Cordkillers.
Oh my gosh, thank you. They did, and now we can continue the show with How to Watch. All right, so we all know CBS All Access is becoming Paramount Plus on March 4th. In the US, Latin America, and Canada, but now we know how much it's going to cost. If you're on the ad-free tier, the same it's costing you now, $10 a month, but the ad-supported tier is going to get cheaper by $1. Not a lot, but cheaper, not more expensive. $5 a month starting in June. It will still include NFL games, but they are, because they're making it cheaper, taking something away and moving your live local TV streams to the more expensive ad-free tier. Although, if you're subscribed at $5.99 to CBS All Access right now and you don't cancel, you will not lose that feature. You also won't save the dollar, so that's the decision you have to make. Paramount Plus will have more than 30,000 TV episodes, 2,500 movie titles, and more. They're basically saying, yeah, we're taking away your live local stream and putting it in the higher paid tier, but you're going to get so much content. 1,000 live sporting events. Paramount Movies will come to the service 45 days after theatrical release in some cases. Mission Impossible 7 and A Quiet Place Part 2 will stream on Paramount Plus 45 days after they hit theaters. Not all of them will. Top Gun, Maverick, Sonic, Dungeons & Dragons, those are all going to have a traditional 90-day run, but some are going to come faster. There will also be a way to add Showtime within the Paramount Plus service. So instead of having a bundled subscription to two separate things, you'll be able to bring Showtime in like an add-on, apparently. Paramount Plus is going to launch in the Nordic countries March 25th, Australia later this year. Viacom CBS also reported that in Q4, CBS All Access and Showtime together grew 56% on the year to 30 million, with 19.2 million in the US. And they announced some new shows coming to Paramount Plus. Halo, starring Pablo Schreiber. You might remember him as Nikki Sabotka in The Wire. That was previously headed to Showtime, now going to go to Paramount Plus. A revival of Frasier, starring Kelsey Grammer, apparently is in the works. It seems like that may be a couple years off, but that's going to come to Paramount Plus. Twilight Zone will not come to Paramount Plus. Not going to get a third season, but also headed now to Paramount Plus is Star Trek Prodigy. That was originally meant only for Nickelodeon. It will now show up not only on Nickelodeon, but also on Paramount Plus.
Naaim, were you already a subscriber to CBS All Access?
I was not CBS. It just nothing on it had ever interested me. Like it was, I don't watch a lot of CBS content. I'm not a big Star Trek guy, so it was just it didn't really have anything for me. But I'm considering Paramount Plus because it for $5 is really not that much. Peacock I get for free, and like they have all the original content that's pretty decent. Paramount Plus has the advantage, it's basically the exact same Peacock model of $5 for the ad-supported tier, $10 for the ad-free tier. They just don't have a free tier that you can use. But it's basically the same model, except that Paramount Plus has all the previous CBS All Access deals that they just have they have so much more original content that Peacock could possibly have launched with. So that's, it's really a good idea that way. But also, it really seems like they're branding themselves as the Star Trek network in the same way Peacock is branding itself as the Office network. Come to us, we have the Office. Come to us, we have all of the Star Trek. If you want to watch Star Trek, Paramount Plus is the place to do that. And
their free play is Pluto TV. So they it's just a little more disconnected than it is with Peacock. I wonder how long that will last. I wonder if that gets bundled in at some point as well.
I think a year ago, Brian would feel like this has no chance to work based on the fact that it's so late to the game. It's such a crowded market. Paramount Plus, what does that even mean? Paramount was the distributor, I was surprised to see, of Captain America, which is now an MCU property. So it's not even like there's any alignment between seeing that mountain logo in any particular property that you like. But the current Brian has experienced. Turns out I really like HBO Max, even though they did everything wrong and they have a stupid setup and they're just a giant bucket of like, here's everything. Here's some, wait, do you want HBO plus garbage? Well, guess what? Here's HBO Max. And if that works, and if that can convince me that it works, then maybe Paramount Plus can do just fine.
I'll tell you what, I'm a guy that buys Blu-rays, as I happen to have two sitting next to me. And Paramount is not on the Movies Anywhere. And that's like always a hassle for me. Like I activate everything in Vudu, and if it's not on Movies Anywhere, it's like, all right, I guess I'll watch it on Vudu. And there's so many Paramount movies that I cannot. And like sometimes I won't buy a Paramount movie because it's not going to activate on my Movies Anywhere. So it's I assume some of those will be on Paramount Plus. Like Indiana Jones is a Paramount,
right?
It's a good
and Paramount is also the Star Trek movie brand.
Right.
In fact, even when you watch Star Trek TV shows, the old ones at the end, you get that Paramount slogan. So now that Paramount and CBS are back together, all the Star Trek is reunified, which is why they're billing Paramount Plus as the Star Trek network. It's to address that gap, Brian, where you're like, what, Paramount? What is that? Oh, Star Trek. Paramount is Star Trek the way Disney is Marvel. And okay, got it.
It's funny because when I think about that iconic Paramount opening, one of the movies that pops to mind first is Coming to America, because they actually zoom in and you go to Zamunda and then you're watching all that stuff. And then now, but of course, Coming to America 2 is an Amazon Prime original. So
that's one of those things with any studio doing its own, especially with previous existing deals, like that just always gets a little muddy and weird. Honestly, it's weird. Like Harry Potter is all on Peacock, and that's a Warner Brothers property. So it's like it's
oh, that is weird. You would think that would be an HBO Max slam dunk then. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I think it's just a deal they made.
Well, and it was
probably regretted.
It was on HBO Max initially, and it was one of the big things that was lost. So that's part of the like streaming contracts that are still having to be executed before all these studios can say, oh, you know what, we're going to actually hold on to Harry Potter.
Yeah, because remember,
all the newest Marvel movies were on Netflix until Disney Plus. The exclusivity ended, and then okay, now they're all on Disney Plus.
It wasn't that long ago where studios didn't really care if you associated their name with a franchise. They wanted you to remember the franchise. They didn't put any work into associating Paramount with any of this stuff. And so the deals were always like, who can give us the most money, which is why Harry Potter had to leave HBO Max for a while. So all of that is going to take a while to work out. Sometimes studios may even still go like, man, that paycheck the Peacock's going to give us is pretty good. Maybe we'll just, cash that check and send that property over there. That is the thing that Paramount Plus is going to have to overcome, which is, okay, great, Star Trek network. What else? CBS News, a fairly big brand. That might bring in a few people, but most people just consider news to be a freebie, not something you pay for. So that's a perk, not a compelling thing. Sports could be pretty compelling, but it's not like CBS has the most sports. And then you're looking at Nickelodeon. That could be pretty compelling because they have a lot of kids content, but so does Netflix, so does Disney Plus. Like there's a lot of competition in that
their
space.
Own splintering of it.
They don't have the one other thing that you can say, come for the Star Trek, stay for the whatever.
The blank.
Well, there is the Avatar new stuff coming that's theoretically coming in Paramount Plus. So that's not nothing as far as Nickelodeon.
Come for the Star Trek. Stay a long time for the Avatar.
That is true.
Stay for the vague promises of.
Please wait.
in a year, come for the Star Trek, and then maybe some Avatar will come kind of soon. Yeah, that's true.
One last button on this. There's a lot of names out there, and they get a bit confusing. We talk about the Peacock, we talk about the Paramount Plus or whatever. I'm only speaking to anybody who's writing us a check. I need permission once per episode to shorten each of those to their various words. Only permission from the bosses, not even going to do it.
I cut you a check, so you got my permission.
Okay, so my question is, can I call one the cock and the other the pee-pee place?
Listen, I actually definitely do call Peacock the cock. Like that's a friend of mine was like, what's this show on? I'm like, it's on the cock. It's like, okay, cool. Sounds good.
Good. Got it.
I mean, it's a legitimate shortening of the name.
That's what I'm saying. Well, I mean, they don't say it in front of them.
My healthcare is paid for by them.
Okay, all right on.
All right.
So all
right, let's talk about what to watch.
Interest.
In Under Surveillance.
I like real estate. It's all about location.
Under Surveillance.
Man, I'm feeling my age on this one. Netflix released the first trailer for Shadow and Bone, and a lot of people are very excited about this. It's an adaptation of Leigh Bardugo's fantasy novels, 8 episodes arriving on Netflix April 23rd. Basically, she doesn't realize she has an inner light until she goes into the shadow and figures it out, according to the trailer.
Can you give me the backstory on is this like an established sci-fi property that I should have recognized or something?
As I said at the very beginning of my read, man, am I feeling my age.
Yes.
And I don't know much about this other than it's the adaptation of Leigh Bardugo's fantasy novels. And the trailer shows her having an inner light and going into a dark place where she reveals
what was not clear is whether or not you were so old that you remember this back when it was on teletype. And then now you're finally encountering it as a TV show.
This is a young person's game, this Shadow and Bone. But it looks fun. It looks like it's set kind of in a kind of a 17th, 18th century fantasy setting. There's like, people with Bridgerton style clothing on.
It is really wild to talk to my teenagers and just how self-aware they are about the content that they're reading. It's like they blurt out, it's like, there's sort of a mashup of this one thing that I won't read because it's too old, and this other thing that I won't read because it's too old, but I'm aware that that was the purpose of making this blend of the two, is to make this new thing that I will read.
We're going to find out that Shadow and Bone came out in like 1974. No, okay, 2012. First book came out in 2012. Okay, good.
Yeah, that's after I graduated high school, so I was too old for young adult novels. This trailer looked very generic. Like I was, maybe it's one of those shows that I'm going to wait for. If people talk about it, maybe I'll watch it. But
this is how it begins, Naaim. You start saying that, next thing you know, you're not watching nothing. You're back watching old reruns of The Next Generation.
I'm watching so much of what I've already seen. Like I started watching Daredevil again. I'm like, this show came out 7 years ago. There's no reason to watch it again.
Be careful.
It's pretty good. It's
Be careful. At the end of this path is ruined, my friend.
I'm watching Scrubs right now. Like that's 20 years old.
I mean, I don't know. One of the hosts of this show may have been watching Star Trek: The Next Generation right before he started doing this show today. I don't know which one.
You have a problem.
Yeah, Peacock has a problem. It's making a series based on the video game Frogger. 13 hour-long episodes of people dodging things on an obstacle course.
Hour-long?
It's a game show.
I am pumped for.
It's a game show being filmed in Australia, so they could be dodging like venomous snakes.
Yeah, dude, it's just a better branded version of American Ninja Warrior that takes fewer syllables to say. I'm 100% in. I'm with you, Naaim.
I watched so much Wipeout when that was like 10 years ago. Like, it's just people falling. It's just like, when we used to watch Japanese game show clips on YouTube, they're just bringing those to America finally, and I'm here for it.
So it actually, man, if you want to go all in on the Frogger branding, there was a TV special that Penn and Teller did where they showed Teller laying down on a road, and they showed a full-on 18-wheeler semi rolling over him, and they're like, how do we do it? And then they said, and then they went through all the magic chess moves of this person verified, this is real, that's real, that's real. And then they get to the end, and it was Victoria Jackson who, the method, by the way, was one half of all the tires were made of foam rubber, and it just rolled over them, and they had giant counterweights on the other side of the truck. And they're like, but that part where you said that everything looks fair, you're like, oh, Penn, that was a technique I call lying through my teeth. And so likewise, like the idea of a Frogger game, and when you lose, you get full on run over by a truck, or you get rushing rapids take you downstream or whatever. 100% all in.
Someone in the chat said HBO Max going to have a Pitfall series. Listen, Warner Brothers owns Midway Games. There's plenty of...
That's way good.
Netflix already has that the Floor is Lava game.
Yep.
I mean, yeah. If Frogger takes off on Peacock, expect to see every video game become a game show.
Yeah.
Space Invaders, the game show.
Yep.
Listen, there was the Candy Crush one that like was on Fox for like 3 years.
Oh,
and
right.
nobody
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Netflix is making a new animated series of Transformers and My Little Pony. If you're like, wait, I thought Nickelodeon was doing it. Yes, Nickelodeon is also doing an animated Transformers. Netflix's one is called Transformers BotBots. So it's about those tiny little bots that disguise themselves as items on a shelf at the mall. And will be set in the mall. My Little Pony G5 is about the ponies starting a group of economic countries to determine mutual trade policy. No, wait, I'm sorry, I have that wrong. It follows the events of the My Little Pony movie coming later this year.
So close enough. So
I read this article and I
The
believed you for a
G5
second. I was like,
ponies
wait,
have
what?
determined that China has violated its trade
That
policy.
sounds weirdly interesting. Maybe I'll watch. No.
actually, to be honest, oh my God, that would be incredible. Imagine like high-end
fascinating,
policy
right?
discussions, like a giant game of Risk with real stakes, but all done by the ponies. The Transformers thing is curious to me. I'd be curious to trace the lineage of who owns what, because these seem like the moves of somebody who's just cashing all the checks and essentially, I don't want to say releasing it to the public domain, but basically treating a brand like you don't care very much about it.
Well, it's like I said earlier. Like if you can sell the brand to whoever, as long as it makes the thing, and then the thing makes the money. It doesn't matter if Nickelodeon's making one and a Netflix is making one. Then that's 2 revenue streams.
In a world where you and I just wished for a G5 summit with the ponies, yes, I would say that quality wins out overall.
Yeah.
The World Trade Organization has named Sunny Starscout as the new. I'm sorry. Indira Varma, who played Ilaria Sand on Game of Thrones. Remember her?
Yeah.
She has been cast in the Disney Plus Obi-Wan series. We don't know what her character is or anything about it. If you remember, Obi-Wan series being written by Joby Harold, directed by Deborah Chow, and is set 10 years after Revenge of the Sith.
That's she's the one that you don't want to kiss, right?
In Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Speak
Correct.
for yourself.
Okay.
No, she's got the venom on the lips. Yeah.
I said speak for
Spoiler.
yourself.
Wow.
I was just adding, not
Listen,
judging.
two of us are millennials, and if that's
I'm good to go.
So yeah, I mean, that's intriguing. We're going to have a woman who used to play a character named Sand on Tatooine, maybe?
Yeah,
Am I stretching?
No. Well, if what you're plumbing the depths of is how excited I personally am about the Obi-Wan show, skeptical but open. I'm hoping. In general, it seems like they're doing a good job. They're being good stewards of the Star Wars universe. Certainly, if you check out the subreddit on prequel memes, they're rubbing their hands together at all the new references they get to make to Obi-Wan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a few other notes here, Paul. W.S. Anderson of Resident Evil directing fame is going to work with Mila Jovovich again, directing an adaptation of George R.R. Martin's In the Lost Lands. That is a not Song of Ice and Fire fantasy from George R.R. Martin. Will star Mila Jovovich, as I said, and Dave Bautista. Deadline reports Ta-Nehisi Coates will write the next Superman reboot that is being produced by J.J. Abrams. Coates has written a lot of nonfiction about white supremacy and Black history in multiple publications, as well as books, and wrote comic books for Black Panther and Captain America. I don't know if this is his first movie writing, but it's certainly the biggest. And Hulu has ordered a 3rd season of Animaniacs. Season 2 has yet to arrive later this year, but they're going to make a 3rd after this, even if you don't watch season 2.
Dude, that was a roller coaster, because I don't know if you have ever seen our show before, person who's listening right now, but I try to have a hot take on everything that's said. And the first was swing and a miss, second was swing and a miss, and then I heard the word Animaniacs, and I'm like, I like Animaniacs. That's good. I'm glad it's coming back.
What about you, Naaim?
I also love Animaniacs. I have not watched the Hulu stuff yet. It's one of those like, listen, the backlog fills up. There's so many things that I am ignoring, but I definitely need to watch the Animaniacs Hulu stuff.
I liked Tom's take of the only way to lose at the new Animaniacs stuff is to expect it to be anything other than the Animaniacs, just with updated references. Is that an accurate portrayal?
Yeah, although I really did get like 3 episodes in and stopped because I was not as happy. The first episode, I was like, yes, it's just more Animaniacs. And then after a couple episodes, I don't know what it was. It wasn't that I disliked it. It was just that I stopped.
I think
didn't go back.
I think part of it for me, because I had the same experience, Tom. I think I watched maybe 4 or 5 episodes, maybe. And I think part of it was just I had forgotten kind of the format, and I don't kind of love the musical stuff, and some of it was a little more educational than I thought.
The musical stuff was
for kids.
I was learning too much, so I quit. Yeah, same here.
It turned out it was a show for children, and I would not expect. I wanted a gritty adult reboot of the Animaniacs.
Yes. Okay. Here we go. Yes. Steven Spielberg, get on the phone.
I think what you wanted is nothing but home runs, and it turns out it's a show made up of largely base hits. It's me, sports metaphor guy, Brian Brushwood.
It turns out sketch comedy, you really just remember the good stuff and not the bad stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, I was expecting animanic depressives, and that's not what I got. All right, let's move on to what we've had our eyes on, starting with our guest, Naaim. What have you been watching these days?
So I've actually been rewatching and also watching the new season of Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, which is an interesting show. Speaking of musical stuff, I like musicals. I grew up on Bollywood musicals with my mom. So this is a show where this girl, Zoe, played by Jane Levy, magically can now hear other people's thoughts expressed through song. The first season's on Peacock, and it's airing currently on NBC, so you can watch the new season on Hulu or also on Peacock day after air. And I don't know, it's just a fun, cute little show. I enjoy it. If you like singing, like if you kind of liked Glee and you liked the singing and then got tired of Glee like most people did, this kind of fills the theater kid Glee gap, if that's something you're into.
Does it have
the Glee gap? I like that.
One of the things I dug about that first season of Glee is that it was so dark, mixed with that sugar candy coating. Does it preserve that, or?
It doesn't. It's not dark, but it doesn't preserve the sugar candy coat. Like, it's not sugar candy coated. It's a drama more than a comedy. There is comedy, obviously. A big part of the first season, this isn't a spoiler, is Zoe's father has like a debilitating disease, and he can't walk, he can't talk. But since she can hear his thoughts through song, you get to see him, played by Peter Gallagher, occasionally express his thoughts through song too. So it's more heartfelt than it is dark.
But it's not dark.
No, it's sweet.
It's not dark.
It's sweet.
It's sweet.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's sweet.
It's a family drama.
And actually, not for nothing, not to make things truly dark, but the truly dark thing is, we had a neighbor whose mother suffered a stroke, and it was fascinating because she couldn't say anything other than one sentence over and over again. But then she said, "Oh, we were doing a therapy thing. Can you sing the Row, Row, Row Your Boat song?" And the mom rolled her eyes and then perfectly sang all of Row, Row, Row Your Boat as if it was beneath her, and then went back to saying the one sentence over and over again. So in that regard, I don't know. There's something to that idea that you could speak through music in a way that you can't speak with.
It's really fascinating. And the creator of the show, his father, his real life father, also went through that disease. So it's a lot of it is speaking from a place of knowledge. My grandfather also, my grandfather had Alzheimer's, and there was a lot of I wonder if if he could really say what he was thinking at some times, I wonder how that would be. So it's a heartfelt,
for sure,
nice little show.
No, that's cool. It is dark to have someone trapped in their own body like that, but it's sweet that they gave a way to communicate. And gosh, I think we all would like that for certain people in our lives over the years. Brian, cheer us up with your pick.
You know what? This actually is a cheery pick. Am I the only one who's watched Nomadland yet?
You told me it was great. Then it won a couple Golden Globes, and now I'm like, I gotta watch it, but I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah,
Yeah, we had the poster for it at the movie theater when I worked at the movie theater, and it was like, oh, this might come out in the theaters, and then it didn't.
Well, did you end up watching it?
I have not seen it yet. You gushed about it on Night Attack last week, and it's like, it's on the list.
I watched all of it straight through, and I think I've watched all of it a second time in pieces, trying to seduce other people into watching it. You're going to hear a lot of chatter about it. There's some Oscar buzz around it. Part of me is kind of bummed that there's going to be any buzz about it because people are going to project what they want the thing to be. And the biggest mistake I've seen is people calling it a scathing indictment of capitalism, calling it an accurate portrayal of life during the Great Recession or whatever. It's none of those things. It's the story of Frances McDormand and the extraordinary magic trick of forgive me, I forget the director's name. But yes, but she has a real knack for teasing out, for number one, casting people who are not traditionally actors and teasing out authentic stories. And there's these moments that happen again and again where I lose myself in a story that's being told, and I suddenly realize, oh, this person is not acting. This actually happened, and they're speaking authentically from the heart. And it's so moving, so powerful. Please go see it before somebody ruins it by politicizing it in some way. Go see it right now. I really enjoyed it.
And you can see it on Hulu. It's
Yes.
You don't have to go anywhere if you don't want to go. You can just turn it on if you have Hulu. I guess you have to go into your pocketbook and buy Hulu if you don't already have it. I would like to recommend a Korean sci-fi show called Sisyphus that is on Netflix. This is trippy. The idea at the very beginning is that people are going through this big machine in a post-apocalyptic world and going back to 2020 because it's better there. And this is our 2020. It's our 2020 in South Korea, so it's not quite as locked down, but there's people in masks and stuff here and there. And the premise is that there is a secret control bureau that calls themselves immigration because the immigrants they're trying to stop from entering the country are from the future. There's a CEO of a big tech company who invented this thing that he's about to unveil, and some other people from the future are trying to come back and stop him from making it. And then our female lead comes back to try to help him escape from them, but also is like, you really shouldn't make it. They're not wrong. I just don't want him to kill you. So we don't know what her real motivation is, why she came back. We don't know what happens to him. And his brother, who is supposedly dead, keeps showing up, and we don't know if his brother actually died but was in the future. And so the brother we're seeing is just from the future before he died, or if his brother escaped to the future and faked his death. Anyway, that's just in the first episode. And it's good stuff. Check it out. It's called Sisyphus on Netflix.
You have me so confused, Tom. Everything you just said, I was like, listen, this sounds good, but so confusing.
Minor spoiler if you've not seen the movie, but it sounds a little bit like 12 Monkeys in that regard.
It's got some 12 Monkeys conundrums.
Yep.
But it's a different story. It's definitely a different story. It's not trying to ape that.
I see what you did.
Boo.
No,
all right, Bryce, stop booing me and tell me what we should be on the lookout for.
Sisyphus do.
Bill sent in a recommendation that I was aware of. It had been on my radar, but I had not jumped into. He sent along the Netflix reality competition show Blown Away. So in this, 10 competitors get an assistant, and they work in this large shop where they take on glass blowing challenges, and they get a few hours to work on a piece given, hey, you got to use these colors, you got this prompt, et cetera, et cetera. And they make some really cool stuff. I'll tell you what, there are a lot of different things that I like about this, not least of which is everybody on the show. In the 2 episodes I saw, there's a lot of talent in what these artists make. And the show is really, really well shot. It really works with it. It doesn't look exactly like, the reality show stage you would expect. I mean, it's a working, what is it called? Hot shop. It's a working shop where all of them are working. And the other nice thing is that it's only 30 minutes long. This is not a show that would have been a good 60-minute reality show because it's a lot of you know, they got to go and do the thing, and okay, I'm going to be doing this thing for a really long time. And that just makes it flow a lot faster. I really dig this. Have any of y'all heard about or seen any Blown Away?
No, but even hearing it, like, this is brilliant because it sounds like everything that people like about like Forged in Fire, only the nature of glass blowing is that everything can be destroyed in 2 seconds, like timing, like, oh my God, that sounds amazing.
Yeah. And
I heard about it. A friend of mine mentioned this to me and was like, it's weirdly enthralling. Watching people blow glass.
Yeah.
You know, it's something really interesting Netflix does a lot of just like these just super niche shows that like would never get made on another network, and you get to sort of see this other side of reality television that we wouldn't get to see otherwise, which is cool.
And it's interesting because I think Netflix's reality show style has been, I don't love the way that they do a lot of their reality competition shows, and this did not start off as a Netflix. This was a make-full series up in Canada, and it seems like Netflix at least has international distribution for it. And so I wonder if they just saw a really good show and they bought it instead of trying to make their own, because some of their other stuff is a little stilted, where this feels...
Netflix doesn't get enough credit for doing that. They do. That's pretty much all they're doing with Korean television, is saying like, yeah, that one looks good. You go ahead and make that TVN and we'll foot the bill for worldwide distribution.
Yeah. And I think it works really well. It feels a lot like Great British Bake Off, where like
I was going to say that's what I heard, is that it's got a little bit of the Bake Off feel. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, because I mean they're crafts people, and they're working at their stations, and there's not a lot of fighting. You know, everyone kind of is rooting for each other. I think someone even in one of the episodes that I watched said like, well, you know, I came here and thinking I wasn't gonna, you know, be here to make friends, but all these people are cool. So I don't know if that's just a more of a general trend we see in competition reality.
I didn't come here to make friends, but then I did.
So there are 2 seasons now of Blown Away on Netflix, and there will probably be another one, probably a third one, I would guess, in the next year, probably in about a year, because the second season just came out. If you've got anything we should be on the lookout for, email us, cordkillers@gmail.com.
All right, folks, I'm going to share something with you that I haven't shared on a podcast yet. I've got a new audiobook in production.
Yes!
It's called Project Vera.
What?
It's about a secret society that rules the world and a woman who accidentally discovers it. The two of the three, actually all 3 narrators just got cast today. So if you want to find out more about that and when it's coming and how you can get it, the best way to do it is subscribe to my newsletter. I send out an email every Friday just talking about all the stuff I do. And in fact, if you already get that newsletter, you know about this, because that was the only other place I mentioned it, as I wrote something about it last week. So get that newsletter, freetomnewsletter.com.
Yeah. Also, Tom's in prison. We forgot to mention that part. Free Tom.
Yes,
hey, and also,
that's the only way you can free me.
It's been a hot minute ever since we moved to the new production studio, and all of our computers got provided by our friends over at Doghouse Systems, doghousesystems.com/rogue. Use promo code ROGUE at checkout, get a free SSD and some other goodies to keep us in business. But I'm starting to get some emails from folks, because sooner or later people have to upgrade. They're getting new gaming rigs, new production rigs, and so on. And the thing I keep hearing is like, guys, that customer service is next level. Like, if you're going to play the price game, I mean, they probably don't want me saying this. They have competitive prices. The prices are fine, but you ain't going there for the prices. You're going there for unreal, like the ability to straight up phone call the CEO and say, hey, here's my situation. Will you help me out? And they will take care of you. Don't tell them I said that. But
they may not get CEO access on day one.
Oh, no, I mean, actually, what's funny is somebody wrote a nice thing about the customer service, and I definitely forwarded it over to the CEO, and the CEO responded, yeah, it was really a pleasure to take care of that guy. He was cool.
Okay, that's cute.
So
You might not even know you're talking to the CEO.
Just make sure we get credit. Doghousesystems.com/rogue. Use promo code ROGUE at checkout.
Let's move on to the front lines.
Front lines.
This one broke real shortly before we started recording this show, or I might have made it a little higher up. We talked previously about how Roku is becoming an ad company. Well, Roku is buying Nielsen's advanced video advertising unit. This is not Nielsen ratings, but this is technology that Nielsen developed for inserting ads into video, like automatic content recognition to be like, oh, is that a sports ball? I will put the sports ball ads in there. Or dynamic ad insertion, where, ads go in where they should instead of right in the middle of someone's sentence. The technology provides better targeting and measurement for ads playing with video, sometimes referred to in the business as addressable TV advertising, to differentiate it from your traditional cable and over-the-air ads that just have to guess at who's watching. Roku will now control one of the best ways to get the most out of a streaming video ad dollar, and Nielsen had deals to use this technology with Disney, CBS, Discovery, Fox, NBC Universal, Warner Media, A&E, and AMC Networks. Roku's acquisition will mean, quote unquote, renewed conversations about those deals. So I don't know, folks, maybe get ready for some more apps brinksmanship, or maybe this will make it easier for them to reach these deals. In either case, the acquisition by Roku means that overnight, addressable TV ads will work on, instead of 55 million devices, 100 million devices, because they're adding in Roku. Spending on addressable TV advertising in the United States is expected to hit $3.6 billion by 2022. So that's where Roku's money is going to be coming from in the future.
That's huge. And also sort of, 2 or 3 points in a row sort of make a line. And we're seeing this consistent trend of Roku, I think, very smartly diversifying their assets, their position. They used to be a box that streamed Netflix, and then they became the platform that was built into a TV. And now we talked last week about the ad business, and now they're the people behind the ad business that's going to be supporting in a lot. I have complicated feelings about highly targeted ads, as we've talked about on this. But as far as Roku goes, I think this is another smart play. Naaim, do you have a hot take?
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing. Like, I don't know how I feel about highly targeted ads, although at this point, what are you going to do? Like, I can't suddenly ungive up all my data that I gave up over the last 20 years. So I guess you just got to live with it. But it seems like a great move for Roku moving forward, for sure.
Tom, do you have a prediction you want to lock in while we're speculating wildly?
A prediction about what?
You tell me.
That Roku is soon to be spoken of as the chief competitor to Google and Facebook, because it has slowly been stealing the future of advertising while the other two have been resting on their laurels. Something like that.
Like just last week we were talking about how Roku taking all these orders. They're probably going to have to go to Google to get things sorted out. And now, from what you're saying right now, it's like, no, maybe they're going to be
maybe not. Maybe they'll be selling technology to Google. Like, hey, we could approve those YouTube ads for you. I'm just saying.
9 to 5 Google reports that the upcoming smart TVs running Google TV will feature a, quote, basic TV mode that strips out smart features and only shows HDMI inputs, live channels, and a stripped down settings panel on the dashboard. Google confirmed that this mode is not part of Android TV 12 and only applies to TVs powered by Google TV. I feel like we've talked a few times before about how I'm increasingly getting confused about the difference between Google TV and Android TV, but now I'm more confused. But I like the idea of having a mode that reduces a television to a dumb monitor.
I was going to say, basic TV mode sounds like something that came straight out of Brian Brushwood's dreams.
Yes,
you've been
that's
harping on this
exactly
for the last
what
decade.
it is. Yes, I agree.
Legitimately, I read this article separate from the show, and I was like, oh, they're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this on Cordkillers, because Brian, I know Brian is going to be super into this.
100%.
I mean, honestly, the difference between Google TV and Android TV is Google TV has features that Android TV doesn't, but all Android TV features theoretically are available in Google TV because it's built on Android TV.
Yeah,
they're just taking Android
Google
TV and
like
adding
a
stuff to
skin
it.
over Android TV, but also
I used to think of
they're
it that
both
way,
made
but
by...
now that they're doing this, like, this is more than a skin. So it's like, oh, okay. So they're going beyond just the interface.
But this sounds like it's on the manufacturing OS level above all of that, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not.
Yeah, they're adding something on top of Android that says, oh, we're going to be able to reach into the device and say, like, all right, let's just dumb it all down and cut off all the processes.
So
I think it's going to be clearer when there's more than just the one device that runs Google TV, which is the Chromecast, obviously. Like, because I have two Android TV devices. My television and my Shield TV are both Android TV devices, and there are clear differences between them and the Chromecast with Google TV, which I also have, but it definitely seems like that is going to be a lot more clearly demarcated when there are more devices to compare to each other.
One of the classic tricks of selling any service is to sort of suss out what the budget is on another person's behalf based on how they flinch, and then you either add or subtract things depending on how they react. The classic example is you're in Italy, you see a picture you like, it's 20 bucks or lira or whatever, and then they say it's 20, and then you don't flinch, and they say, and for 10 more, I'll put it in a frame, and then you don't flinch, and they say, and for only 5 more, I'll gift wrap it. Whereas the reverse version is they say it's 20 and you go, whoa. And then they say, but that includes the frame, which is normally 10 on its own. You're like, well, I don't know. And they say, you know what? Normally it's $5 to gift wrap it. I'll throw that in for free. So you get the same. This could be one of those things where it makes sense to increasingly have different versions for those deals with large manufacturers.
Well, I think the other thing here is Android is free, but Google gets you to pay them because they'll include googly things on Android. Android TV is free, and nobody wants the googly things that you would pay Google for Android. So I think Google has created Google TV to be like, but you'll pay us for this because it's called Google TV.
Right. And weirdly, what you're paying for is to have less. like we won't even put any Google stuff on there. All right, sold.
And what's nice is you can change. Like if you can change your mind. If you start off as a Brian Brushwood and then you decide, no, I want the smart TV features, you can turn them back on.
Right.
Yeah, you can turn it back on. That's true. AT&T finally figured out what to do with its TV service. Yay! DirecTV is going to be spun out into a separate subsidiary that will be 70% owned by AT&T, 30% owned by a private equity company called TPG Capital, and all the debt will be off the rest of the AT&T balance sheet. That subsidiary will be called DirecTV. It will own and operate DirecTV, AT&T TV, and Uverse. So we might be heading towards another rebranding. Existing customers will not have any of their services disrupted and will keep any bundles and discounts they have even after this spin out happens.
Dude, fingers crossed that they've already got the name. Obviously, the service should be called DirecTV, AT&T TV, and Uverse, brought to you by TPG Capital.
Right. Obviously, TV.
TV, sorry. Otherwise, I mean, how would they know what the service does if you don't also put the letters TV in there?
This sentence started with AT&T figured out what to do with this TV service, but from reading this article, it really seemed like AT&T has no idea what to do with this TV service.
Well, they figured out what to do it, which is shove it over there and ignore it and hope someone else fixes it.
But they still own 70% of it. None of it makes sense. I don't understand this at all.
Yeah, but you can bankrupt a subsidiary without it hitting the bottom line of your main. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Netflix took home the most Golden Globes at the awards ceremony Sunday. 3 for The Crown, 2 for The Queen's Gambit, and 1 each for The Trial of the Chicago 7, I Care a Lot, and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Amazon won 2 for Borat and 1 for its joint venture with BBC Small Axe. Disney Plus won 2 for Soul. Hulu won for the United States versus Billie Holiday, and Apple got 1 for Ted Lasso. Nomadland, which we talked about earlier, also took Best Director and Best Picture and is streaming on Hulu. Hey, Naaim, in what just universe does number 1 somehow a Pixar movie get the same number of wins as Borat? And number 2, what hellhole do we live in where Ted Lasso only gets 1?
Listen, Bryce and I might have gotten to a minor spat on Twitter about
this. Was not a spat. This, by the way, was not a spat. I just sent you a reply.
It was not a spat. It was not a spat. I'm joking. I'm kidding. First of all, Twitter. I'm also very performative on Twitter. I'm sure Schitt's Creek is fine. I've watched 12 episodes. I don't understand why everybody loves it so much. And as you know, if you follow me on Twitter, I exist only to sing the praises of Ted Lasso.
That is correct.
Because it is the best television show.
It's how you redeem your soul.
Oh. By the way, so Soul's 2 wins were animated feature and score, and Soul's score was Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, and it's fantastic. Like it's a really good score. And on
the Schitt's Creek thing, like it was their final season. Like there's always
it's fine.
That like finally this show got popular right before it ended. So here we go, everybody.
I get it. I understand. All I'm saying is I binged all of Kim's Convenience in a weekend, and I need to force myself to watch Schitt's Creek. So they're on the same network as the in Canada. So anyway, it's fine.
Listen, folks, if you have hypertension, consult your doctor before following Kuhan on Twitter because he does get salty.
See what you did there.
LG announced it agreed to license its smart TV OS WebOS to TV brands RCA, Aeons, and Konka. because LG looked it over at Roku and was like, man, licensing out and getting advertising money. We could do that. These manufacturers will use a powered by WebOS TV platform based on WebOS 5.0 to start with. They'll reserve WebOS 6 for LG TVs. That's the one they displayed at CES 2021. I expect eventually all the TVs get WebOS 6. They're just going to start it on their own platform. WebOS 6 is the one that gets rid of the slide-up blades. If you have an LG TV, you know, they have the little blades that come up. WebOS 6 has a more typical scrolling home screen. The move to license out WebOS at all puts LG in competition with Roku, Google TV, and Amazon's Fire TV for dominance in the TV OS space. Doesn't look like LG's making any dongles, but I'm sure they'll license it to anybody who wants to make them, or any set-top boxes, but might be a little too late. I don't know.
Well, I would have said the same thing a year ago about Roku. Roku, it's too late. They're already, they mean the box with the little Levi jeans thing on the side that says the word Roku that you give to your grandma so she can watch Netflix. I would think the same thing about WebOS. Like, didn't Palm run on that? And so... but in a world where HBO Max works, I don't know, up is down, left is right, black is white.
To me, it's not about branding. It's about, can you get the manufacturers to pay to license your OS when they have all these other choices? Like, what's the compelling reason to pay LG to license WebOS? It's not that the consumer is going to be like, ooh, give me that WebOS yet. It's that you've got to show them why the WebOS interface is preferable. And as someone who has an LG TV, I really love the interface, but I love the old Blades interface. I'm not sure about this new one.
Yeah, and also a lot of the discussion is behind the scenes where it's like, hey, we're going to make 100 billion TVs, and we're not loving what we're hearing from Roku. What do you got? And we're like, WebOS, like, we'll take it.
Yeah, is it cheaper?
Yeah,
Great.
Someone in chat mentions, can you get developers to make apps for the WebOS? And that's a little bit of an issue as well. I don't have an LG TV. My brother has an LG TV. I'm not a huge fan of the WebOS Blades interface. So we'll see what this new thing looks like. But they are kind of entering a crowded market because besides Roku and Amazon's Fire TV, there is also Android TV. So like it's sort of a crowded market for WebOS to try to get into. But I can understand why they're trying to, but even like the ones they're starting with, RCA, Aeons, and Konka, like, are not necessarily brands.
They're not powerhouses,
purchasing from. Yeah,
correct. I will say I have been pleasantly surprised how fast apps come to WebOS. They often come to WebOS before they come to Fire TV or even Android. There's a couple of apps that we have to use on our LG. Because they just aren't available on any other platform. They're very niche things, but they do pretty well. So expanding that to other platforms is only going to make that improve.
Yeah,
agreed.
What about what's happening with AMC Networks, Brian?
Oh, shoot. I forgot. I thought we were done. AMC Networks announced that it ended 2020 with more than 6 million subscribers across AMC Plus, Acorn TV, Shudder, Sundance, and now ALLBLK, with up 157% on the year. CEO Josh Sapin said that streaming is now the most significant growth area for the company. He also said that gravity makes things go down and the pandemic is bad.
Yeah. Take it all those positions.
Streaming services, you guys. Everyone's got their own streaming network, and I'm surprised AMC is doing so well with it. I mean, I get it, but they don't have like the wealth that somebody like Paramount or Disney or HBO does. But if it works for them, it works for them. They do have good content.
Yeah, and they have these niche services like Shudder where enthusiasts go because it's the place that has all of those titles, so I don't have to buy them all individually. Yeah. So yeah, Sundance, same way. Let's move on to our dispatches from the front. Michael from Texas has music for Brian's ears. He says, I think I agree with Brian.
Come to the wrong side. It's delightful.
About the Netflix predictive download thing. Anytime a company starts deciding what I want to watch, what was the phrase Brian used? A little prickly about what is motivating those downloads. It seems too easy for a company to behind the scenes start letting other companies pay to be bumped to the top of the list, much like that U2 album from way back when.
Yeah, so on the flip side, Blair holds my feet to the fire saying, Brian, you confuse me. All this time you've been saying your most wish for TV consuming is to sit down and watch the TV and have the streaming bot just guide you and everything, so you don't really have to think about it and give you what you really want to watch. But you seemed rather upset, or dare I say prickly, about the AI of Netflix deciding what to download. Fess up, which is it that you really like? And I did put a little bit of thought into why did that happen? And my best guess is that in my fantasy, it's an AI bot that I know for sure works for me. In the story as we described it, I know 100% for sure this is an AI bot that works for Netflix. And I think that's the differentiating factor.
I will repeat what I pointed out last week, which is Netflix doesn't do advertising. They aren't selling advertising. They're not doing advertising. Brian's fear is based on the fear that they might change that. But if they don't, and they've been very, very resistant to that, the AI that Netflix uses benefits by making you happier with Netflix and keeping your subscription. So in that sense, it would be working for you.
Yeah, but like if Paramount comes to Netflix and says, we want you to raise up iCarly in these downloads, then, that's not advertising, but Netflix's takes the dollar.
Business model has been to not do things like that.
Yeah.
And we talked about last week that there are not a lot of incentives for Netflix to do that, or for Paramount to do that.
Right.
Sure.
So anyway, your mileage may vary.
I think the nice thing about it is just discoverability on Netflix is not as easy as it once was. And so for something like this, it's just a different version of the For You recommended stuff, right? It's a little bit more hyper-focused of that. You can always just... not watch it.
It is really wild to load up Netflix and to, for the first time, feel a wave of these again. Like all of a sudden I feel the pressure for Netflix. Like it's, what have you done for me lately?
Yeah. Like when's your next Bridgerton coming? Queen's Gambit. You got another one?
I do the same thing. And then the other day I loaded up Netflix. I'm like, oh yeah, I still haven't watched The Last Dance. I guess I'll watch this today.
I actually made a big move. It's not that big. I'm way overselling it, but I made a significant move, I think. I have watched Star Trek, the original series, Star Trek, the animation, Star Trek Voyager, and Star Trek Deep Space Nine on Netflix, and decided to, as I mentioned earlier, start watching The Next Generation, and I'm doing it on Paramount Plus.
Wow. No, that is a significant move. You couched that exactly right, because I'm like, that sounds like a lot, Tom. And then, yep. All right. Well played.
Matt Bat wrote in and said, I'm glad I can choose not to let Netflix, its original shows that I don't care about. Every time I log into Netflix, they show me the same 10 GD shows that are original productions, and I have no interest in watching. The last thing I want is Netflix to load up the tiny hard drive on my phone with all of its crap videos. I'm so glad you have to enable this on purpose. Thank you for the show, Matt Bat.
Yeah, I think he left out the word download, but it was definitely implied in there. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like Matt Bat doesn't like Netflix's originals, which I think puts him in a rarer category.
There are a lot of them. It's just there's so many Netflix originals that it's like, hey, maybe I like Bridgerton and maybe I like Peaky Blinders, but like maybe I don't care about the other 75 Netflix originals that also get dropped in there.
But also, if this thing is working as advertised, it won't download things you don't want to watch, whether they're original or not. It will just say, oh, what are those old production library things that you like on Netflix? We'll put those on here. Like in this world of Facebook and Google, we have been taught never to trust that our best interests are at heart. I will take the unpopular stance. Like, I don't think Netflix is trying to trick you with this. I think they really want to say like, hey, these are the things you're already watching. You're halfway through a movie, you're doing some TV shows, and we're pretty good at predicting what you like next. So we'll do our best to put some of those on there for you as well.
What Netflix wants is for you to stay on Netflix. The more time you spend on Netflix. They don't want to
have you go like, wait, I don't like originals. Why are you forcing that? Wouldn't be what Netflix would want to happen, because they don't want you to get annoyed with them.
Well, also, right before I go to bed, I really want candy. And what I don't need is Netflix giving me candy. And I'm like, no, stop giving me candy. It's like, well, it's what you want. Well, yes, it's what I want, but it's not what's good for me.
Get out of the candy store. What are you doing?
They're not trying to do what's good for you. They're not trying to do what's good for them. And what's good for them is shoving candy in your face.
Well, but also,
you're in the candy store. Go to bed. Go to bed.
You don't need to Fannie Mae and go home.
You chose to go into the candy store.
Man, Naaim, it's been so great having you along today. I know you got a bunch of stuff going on. Let folks know where they can find it.
Yeah, if you go to www.iamkuhan.com, that has all the projects that I do. Right now, it's not a lot, but Speakeasy Pub Quiz is the one that every single week I do a live pub quiz on Twitch and YouTube with my friend Jose Cuevas. It's a lot of fun. Thursday nights at 9:30 Eastern time. Yeah, it's free to play, and there are prizes. Most of the time, people just donate the $10 they win to charity because now that's what they do.
That's
It's great.
So sweet. They're like
That's
in
cool.
one sentence. That's adorable. I love that.
You guys put on a great show. This is also like a cool thing to just watch.
Yeah, we put a lot of effort into it, and it's a lot of fun. I bought a stream deck to run this show, so like it's yeah. And we do a lot of Diamond Club people play every week. The Diamond Club team is usually around like 25 people. So maybe we need to split them, but who knows? But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and a lot of people like it, so that's good.
Awesome.
Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. We're live on twitch.tv/Night Attack. Also carried on diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We will see you next time.
Hey, Tom Merritt.
Yes, Brian Brushwood.
Know who I love even more than my own children?
Your other children?
No, not my wife. I know what you're saying. I love our $5 patrons. These are the people that keep us loud, live, and independent. Thank you so much, $5 patrons.
You know what? I love them more than not life itself, because then I'd be dead and I couldn't appreciate them, but really, really, really close. And I'm so thankful that they are here to make this show happen.
Thank you so much to all of our $5 a month patrons. You guys are wizards. You're champions.
Thank you, everyone.
You're heroes.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.